These are the 3.1 notes for Algebra 2. We are starting a new chapter all about quadratics. Quadratics is anything that has an x squared in it. So today we're going to be graphing in standard form. This is what standard form looks like. So anytime you see an equation that looks like that, you've got these 5 steps in order to graph them. So we'll reference back to these as we go through. Let's go ahead and get started with problem number 1. The first thing we need to do is identify our a, b, and our c. A is the number in front of the x squared. Since I don't see anything, it's a 1. B is the number in front of the x, -2. And c is the -3, the number at the very end without the x. Step 2, I need to find my answer for x. So that means I'm going to use this equation right here, -b over 2a. Negative of the b, which would be -2, and then 2 times 1. Those two negatives cancel out to get a positive. And 2 divided by 2 gets me 1. Step 3 tells me that I need to plug in that answer for 1 into the equation every time I see an x. So I'm going to plug it in right here for the x and right there. 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3. At this point, I would grab your calculator. Remember, you downloaded the calculator app, or you can use one that you have on your own. But just go ahead and type that in. 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3. And writing it with the parentheses is the best way to do it. You should be getting an answer of -4. So my answer for my vertex, the main part of my quadratic, my parabola, is going to be the point 1 from right here and -4 from right here. Once we have our vertex, we are going to plot it on the graph. So I'm going to plot the point 1, -4, 1 over and 4 down. And then we're going to lean on a pattern here. So our pattern is going to be a 1-3-5 pattern. And the 1-3-5 pattern comes from the fact that if you make a T-chart and start with a 0 for the x, and then just plug in the next couple of numbers. If I do x squared, if I square each of these, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. I want you to notice the pattern that's happening right here. That is a 1. From 0 to 1 is 1. How far is it from 1 to 4? Well, that's 3. And how far is it from 4 to 9? That's 5. And that's where our 1-3-5 pattern comes from. You're taking x and you're squaring it because squaring is what we're working on in this unit. So my a value, what I got from the very beginning, my very first step up here, that's what I'm going to use. A equals 1. So because a is 1, we use the pattern 1-3-5. If a was something other than 1, we're just going to multiply our pattern by that number. Then we're going to graph. So in order to graph this, I'm going to go up 1 and right 1, put a dot. Up 3 and right 1, put another dot. Up 5, right 1, and put another dot. That's going to give me half of my U-shaped parabola, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And that's how you would graph a parabola in standard form, a quadratic in standard form. All right, let's try the next one. Here it doesn't give me all the steps, but you can kind of just refer back to what we've done. It's all the same. So you're going to start by identifying A, B, and C. A is 1, B is 4, C is -1. Then I have to find my value for x. So I'm going to use the equation x equals -b over 2a. That's going to give me -4 over 2 times 1, which is -4 over 2, which is -2. Then I'm going to plug in the -2. y equals negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 minus 1. It's important that you include the parentheses every time that you're plugging something in. You would type that into your calculator. You would get an answer of negative 5. So your vertex is going to be negative 2, negative 5. And so we'll plot the point, negative 2, negative 5. Left 2 and down 5. From there, we're going to create our pattern. Since my A is 1, I'm going to use the pattern 1, 3, and 5. So I'm going to go up 1 over 1, up 3 over 1, and up 5 over 1. Same thing on the other side. Now, we didn't talk about maximum or minimum on the other side, but what we're trying to do is identify whether this point, the vertex right here, is the maximum, the highest point on that parabola, or the minimum, the lowest point. Obviously, it's the lowest point because it's the furthest down point, so it's going to be a minimum. Axis of symmetry is what the line is. It's going to cut this graph right down the middle. So it's always going to be kind of going through the vertex. And it cuts through the x-axis at negative 2. All right, our next problem does have a negative right in front of it. So that's going to mean that my A is negative 1. My B is negative 6, and C is negative 8. We're going to start by using our equation, negative B over 2A. Be careful here, you have a double negative, the negative from the formula, and then the negative on the 6. That gets me a positive 6 divided by negative 2, which gets me a negative 3. Then we want to make sure we plug in that negative 3. So this is important right here. My A is negative 1. I'm going to go ahead and put a negative 1. Just kind of squeeze a negative 1 right there. I think it's going to help me with the math. Then I'm going to let my calculator, my brain very carefully work through that problem. You should eventually get to an answer of 1. So my vertex is going to be whatever number I got right here and whatever number I got right here. So it's negative 3, positive 1. I'll plot that point right here. Now I'm going to work on figuring out my pattern. My pattern comes from the 1, 3, 5 rule, but it has to do with the A. If my A is not 1, it means I have to take my pattern 1, 3, 5 and actually multiply it by negative 1. So that would give me negative 1, negative 3, and negative 5. That just means my parabola is going to be upside down. So I'll go down 1 and over 1, down 3 and over 1, and down 5 and over 1. You can see on this one that this is a maximum value because this is the highest point on your parabola. And our axis of symmetry always cuts the parabola right down the middle through the vertex. So it'd be x equals negative 3. All right, for problem number 4, notice that you don't have all 3 terms. So we just got to make sure we figure out what's what. A, we said is the number in front of the x squared, negative 2. B is the number with the x. I don't see just a regular x, so B is going to have to be 0. And C is the number without any variables, without any x's, so that is a 3. We'll start by doing our equation, negative b over 2a, 0 over 2 times negative 2. That gets me 0 over negative 4, but that still gets me 0. 0 is a number just like anything else, so we're going to keep going by plugging that in. Very carefully do that math to get an answer of 3. So my vertex is 0, 3. I'll go across 0 and up 3 to put my dot right here on my y-axis. Then let's figure out our pattern. My A is negative 2, so I need to take my pattern 1, 3, 5 and multiply each of those numbers by negative 2. So 1, 3, 5 is going to get multiplied by negative 2. It'll turn into negative 2, negative 6, and negative 10. It's going to make a very skinny parabola that's upside down. So I'm going to go down 2 over 1, down 6 over 1, and down 10 over 1. Down 2 over 1, down 6 over 1. And notice I don't have room to do the down 10 over 1. That's okay. You can just leave that last point off if it doesn't fit. And same thing on the other side. That parabola is upside down, which means this vertex point at the top is a maximum. And your axis of symmetry is going to cut right down the middle at 0, x equals 0. All right, our last problem. Let's go ahead and set up the A, B, and C. A is going to be negative 2. B is the number with the x. That's going to be my 8. And this time my C is 0. I don't have a number sitting off at the end by itself. Negative b over 2a. Multiply. And then divide. Once you get your answer for x, you're going to plug that into y. Remember, you always evaluate the exponents first before you do the multiplication. So just make sure that this 2 squared is done first, and then you can multiply it by negative 2. When you type that into your calculator, you do get an answer of 8 once you're done with the whole thing. This means my vertex is 2, 8. 2, 8, way up here. I'm going to investigate my pattern. It's going to be my A number. Again, 1, 3, 5. But I multiply it by 2, negative. Which gets me negative 2, negative 6, and negative 10, just like the last time. Down 2 over 1. Down 6 over 1. And down 10, just barely fits at the end here. And the same thing on the other side, down 2 over 1, down 6 over 1, and down 10 over 1. So we always still go over 1. We never change how far we go over, only how far we go up or down. Okay. So maximum or minimum? It's a maximum. It's at the top of my graph. And lastly, our axis of symmetry. Again, it just cuts the graph right down the middle through the vertex, which gets me an answer of x equals 2.